Start trading today at pucatrade.com.
Hey, welcome back. We are in Vintage Super League. There is a lot of echo happening, and
Sorry,
I'm
though.
just
Yeah,
Eric
just
Froelich, and I'm joined by David Williams, who loves Vintage so much that despite the fact that he's casting, he is still watching the stream.
yeah, I love it so much that even though I'm eliminated, I'm here again because I'm excited to see how this concludes. Last round was pretty freaking awesome. Well, for half of the players, Ochoa made quick work of Ole Rade. That was really impressive. I personally have been kind of down on workshops lately, so for seeing it perform like that was nice to see. Even though I mean he did have Black Lotus in both his openers, which is huge. So did Ole. He just had more to do with his Black Lotuses.
Yeah, when the match opened up, I was looking at Ole's hand. I'm like, this is literally the best hand I've ever seen in Vintage in my life. It was missing one copy of Liliana, but now we have that too, so just an absolute perfect hand. And I'm like, well, that's game. There's just no way that Shops could ever have a hand to beat it. If Ole's on the play, the game is just over on turn one. If he's on the draw, it's still probably over. And then look at Webb's hand. It's just 9 mana, 2 insane threats. It's like, all right. and Webb on the roll, so that was enough for Shops to take it down. Black Lotus, believe it or not, is a really good card in workshops.
Yeah, there was a period where there was like kind of a debate in the vintage community. Some guy, I can't remember his name. I'm sure the chat will know. Said the Black Lotus didn't belong in certain workshop decks, and then people were kind of following along. And then I think we were kind of teasing Chris Pacula because he had a list without a Black Lotus, right? Was it him who didn't play it?
I believe it might have been. I can't really imagine that someone would do such a thing, but there were rumors that was the case. I didn't look at the deck list. I just assumed it was false.
Yeah, I mean, I think the card is just so good. Even though there are times in a workshop deck where late it could not do much, the upside of having it in your opener or your first few draws is just so incredible, and it can turn a game that was fair into a game that is no longer fair anymore. So I think you kind of have to include it in pretty much all deck lists that you can. Pakula in the chat though still thinks the deck should not have Lotus. But let's talk about this upcoming match. We've got
So do a lot of other people who have run the numbers and have proven that, despite being the most powerful card, it doesn't belong in a deck that really needs to accelerate its mana.
So we do have another workshop list here. It's a little different. It does have more sphere effects. I was actually excited to play had I been able to beat Ole Ochoa because he didn't have sphere of resistance. You know, he only was down to the thorns in addition to the lodestone golems. But Nick also has sphere of resistances in his list. They're both kind of similar in their creature set and sort of fire nice. So what do you think the difference? Oh, wait, he's playing the Storm deck right now. So against the Storm deck, he's better set up. So I think this kind of favors Nick. Like Kai said, it depends on the die roll. I think if Nick wins the die roll, he's pretty much favored. And if Reed wins the die roll, he's going to be pretty good shape. But I think it totally is going to be die roll dependent.
Yeah, I mean, die roll is huge, but that being said, you can certainly win on the draw from either side. I mean, Kai had some pretty extreme numbers, thinking it goes from effectively 70% to 40% based on the die roll, but those are still a huge amount, like 40%, or even being 70% is 30% to lose. So even if his numbers are accurate, which, it's hard to tell from a format set, I don't actually know. I've only played the matchup a couple times, and my Storm deck was pretty different. I haven't lost the shops yet, but I do not think it's a good matchup. That being said, I definitely hold open the possibility that I'm completely wrong, and Workshops is not even close to favored against Storm. Storm is a really good deck and a very good choice in Vintage right now. So it's definitely big for Nick to win the die roll, to at least offer some turn one interaction. There's a lot of turn one interaction that can potentially win the game against Storm because you can shut down their mana so effectively that they never get on the board, depending on if you actually are able to draw things like Mishra's Workshop and, of course, Black Lotus, your most powerful cards, to fuel your engine. And if he's able to land like an early Chalice or Trinisphere, the cards that he has one of, or he has 7 sphere effects in the deck with 4 Thorn, which is just a sphere against a Storm deck that doesn't play creatures, you can do some serious damage, and an early Lodestone Golem is basically going to be impossible to beat. If Nick's able to set up in any way, that means that Reed's going to need a Hercules Recall. If he's able to get to enough mana to cast Hurkyl's Recall and finds a copy, then Reed's in great shape. And if that doesn't happen, then Nick will lock him out.
Yeah, let's take a look at Reed's deck list real quick. I think they might be ready soon, so let's peek. I know I had 2 Hurkyls on my list. I'm not sure how many does he have in his main deck.
I think he has 2 in the main and 2 in the sideboard also.
So yeah, he also has 2, and he has 2 in the sideboard, so he can go up to 4. He also has a rebuild, so he has the tools to do it. It's just a matter of fact if you'll be able to cast those tools. If he's able to resolve a Hurkyl's Recall, it pretty much means he most likely will be untapping and winning, because usually he'll play it at the end of the turn to sort of get rid of the lock pieces, untap, and go off. So it pretty much is going to come down to that card if Nick has an early sort of lock start. And he'll have time to do that if Nick doesn't also have pressure with it. But if he has pressure with it, he's not going to have many turns, which is another reason why Lodestone Golem is one of the most important cards in the deck, in the matchup.
Yeah, Lodestone Golem's huge. Looking at Reed's deck, it does make sense to me why he would say he feels that he is favored against Storm. His sideboard is great. He gets to board in a bunch of lands that Storm really only has Strip Mine to interact with because it's 4 basic. He also has 3 copies of Simian Spirit Guide, which can get out from under these Chalice effects to effectively give you a ritual because all you really want to do is cast your Hurkyl's Recall, and having 4 Hurkyls and a rebuild after sideboard is a ton of ways to actually get that effect. And once you do something like that, there's nothing that workshops can do to interact with you once you get to untap. And so those cards being instant and having all these ways to actually get around the sphere effects, the fact that you don't have Chalice of the Void to be able to lock out Hurkyl's Recall, now that you're down to only 1 with it being restricted, that's a huge loss. So there are a lot of ways to go through your deck, find Hurkyl's Recall, and he has so much mana, and if the Shops player can't put up a fast clock, which it does struggle to do. I mean, we've seen Shops games go really long. If you don't have an early Lodestone Golem, the game will take some time. You can't actually lock people out like you used to, and so being able to play basics that they can't interact with, Simian Spirit Guiding and casting a Hurkyl's Recall, that's often going to be enough to just untap, cast a few spells, maybe draw a bunch of cards with a Yawgmoth's Bargain or Ancestral Recall or Yawgmoth's Will, and then just win with the Tendrils.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's going to board in probably 11 cards, so it'd be interesting to see what all comes out. I mean, obviously a card like Duress is not that great, and then he's got, you probably can cut like Mind's Desire because you're not really going to need it. He could bring in Empty the Warren, so it's going to be interesting to see how he sideboards because he has so much for this matchup, which, he did say he felt prepared and felt like he was ready for it, and it does look like it. So I'm excited to see how the second and maybe third game go.
Yeah, he's got that mental misstep that doesn't do much, and he can shave some Gataxian Probes, not needing to really fill his graveyard for Dark Petition as much, only playing 2 of those. Gataxian Probe is pretty weak when you actually have to pay mana for it, and the information is pretty useless because your opponent is playing a bunch of artifacts. You don't have Cabal Therapy, so the Gataxian Probe cycles, which is nice when you can do it for free, but once that starts costing mana, the utility goes down dramatically. So I imagine we'll see some probes come out, the misstep, and Duresses, Mind's Desire, and just tons of stuff coming in.
All right. So do we know, are the players ready or are they close? I haven't. Okay, so the players are still setting up. So yeah, it's like I said, it's weird. It's like 2 slightly different takes on Workshop and how the Storm deck is slightly different than the other Storm deck. So it looks like we kind of see actual, who brought the best version of Workshop and who brought the best version of Storm. I think this favors Reed slightly because I really do admire the Simian Spirit Guide with all the basic lands in the sideboard, and I think that's going to be huge for him.
Yeah, it looks like he definitely anticipated there being a number of Workshop decks. He was not wrong, and if he's going to win this league, it's just non-stop Workshops from here on out. So Reed has said he thinks he's a favorite in the matchup, and he's going to get to prove it because there's nothing but Shops left. So it's Reed versus the Shops, and sounds like the players are ready. So let's send it down and see if Reed can take care of business.
We're back. Nick won the die roll, which is huge for him.
Yeah, and he's got the Chalice. And he's got Workshop, and he's got Academy. So he's got basically all the tools he needs to have a great game 1. Wow, yeah. His hand is exactly what you want. Chalice for 0 is great against a deck that relies on Mox's Lion's Eye Diamond Lotus, Petal Black Lotus for a ton of its mana sources. and he's already got Thorn, so he's basically locking out rituals early, and yeah, this is going to be almost impossible for Reed to win this game.
It's interesting, though. I actually kind of, I mean, I don't know. It's something to think about. I have no idea if it's right or wrong. I trust Nick's judgment. He's played a lot more workshops. But Chalice for one, I know as a Storm player, is something that I'm way more terrified of than Zero. I know that he does want to, since he's on the play, stop Reed from deploying any fast mana right away. But a Chalice for one could be, backbreaking. But having a Thorn with it makes those 1-drops cost 2. Such Dark Rituals are a lot less effective. So that does kind of weigh in favor of Chalice for Zero.
Yeah, with this hand and being on the play, the fact that he can lead on Thorn, I would definitely cast Chalice for 0. I like this play a lot. I think that you just want to lock out some of their fast mana, and if Reed is able to play like Mox, Lotus past the turn, that his ones might not matter as much, and he has easier access to get to Hurkyl's Recall, where right now it's going to be a real struggle even getting there. Yeah, Nick's going to be able to continually lock things out. He's got Tangle Wire. He's got Sword if he wants it. He's just in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. I mean, if Reed went first, he most likely would have won on turn 1. By the way, he could have played Landmox, Ritual, Bargain, Lion's Eye Diamond, sack it, and then just drawn a handful of cards and probably just won the game. So it goes to show about how Kai was talking about the die roll being so important. And now on the flip side, Nick won the die roll, and it's hard to say he won the game, but effectively he almost pretty much won the game on the first turn. So the die roll here was enormously important, and unfortunately for Reed, it's going to be hard to break out of this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that Reed would have been a pretty heavy favorite had he won the die roll, and right now I don't really foresee him being able to come back.
Yeah, I mean, Nick doesn't have a lot of pressure right now. He doesn't have anything else other than 2 points a turn. But
his Sword of Fire, nice.
That's where I was going. He does have a sword in his hand, I was going to say, which can increase his clock from 2 to 6, which will limit those turns. Instead of having 8 turns, he's going to have 3. So.
Well, Reed didn't find a second land, and Nick's also going to be drawing 2 cards a turn with the sword, so he's going to close this game out pretty quickly. Reed's not going to have any mana available on his turn, so there's nothing he can do. Zeros are locked out, 1s are locked out because of Tangle Wire plus Thorn, and so this is just lights out.
So, it's weird. Last 2 weeks, Vintage Super League, the matches have taken forever. I mean, when the games I weren't involved in, the matches I weren't involved in, I watched the next day, and every match was like an hour long. And last match, was probably about 10 minutes of Magic. This match so far is going pretty quickly. I mean, both these players know their deck. No one's taking forever. I know when I was playing Storm, my turns were taking ages. Reed actually doesn't really have many decisions to make. Nick has sort of locked him out. So it was quite a change of pace here for the speed of how the week is going. So I imagine if Reed does, although Reed doesn't concede, I was like, if Reed doesn't draw a mana source this turn, he might just go ahead and go to sideboarding. But Reed's a player that makes you attack for that last point of life almost every time.
It's true.
And when it's not Magic Online, I actually saw one of the most amazing things ever happen. I'll tell a story since we're kind of sitting here, which I always concede. Whenever a matchup seems like you can't win, or a match and you're locked out, I just concede. And I remember back to one of the Master Series tournaments when they used to have this special tournament for the top players. And I'll never forget this. Jason Zila, a good friend of mine, old player, was locked out against, I can't remember the player's name, but he was stasis locked, where he was literally had no chance at ever winning the game. But he did not concede. He didn't get any untap phases and was just sitting there while his opponent kept the stasis going. And I was wondering why he didn't concede. And it was Singuilem for first place of, I think, 25,000. And this was in like the top 4 maybe. And his opponent ended up drawing a card without paying for stasis or something like that, or drawing an extra card like he thought the turn was over. Got a game loss and ended up losing the match, and Jason went on. So if there's any reason to not concede, you never know what'll happen. So that's live Magic. This is online. There's no game losses here. This one's all but over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different. Like in VSL, if someone's going off or using time vault key and they misclick or do something to kill themselves, I'd rather just concede anyway.
Oh well, yeah. Obviously, this is it's sort of
But
for fun and a different. It's not for those kind of stakes. And it's about friendship, and we all know each other and like each other. Although we haven't seen that happen, and I've kind of wondered what's going to happen if that what someone will do when put to the test, because I don't think we've actually seen that. I was worried with Dredge one time. Steven Menendian made me kind of attack through, and I was like, what if I click through my attack step? And I was terrified because I was on a bad connection with a screwy mouse, but. It didn't happen, and we didn't have to see what someone would do. But I'm pretty sure everyone in the league would probably concede in a spot like that.
well, here goes Reed boarding in 10 cards.
Is 10 what he brought in?
Look like 10 cards came in.
Because I had counted 11 if you included the 2 land, 3 spirit guides, 2 more lands, so that's 7. The Empty the Warrens is 8, 2 Hercles, 9, 10,
No,
and
it was
Rebuild
11. He had already clicked the Mind's Desire out so quickly that I didn't see it leave his deck. I just thought it was a sideboard card because it was too small for me to see. But no, it is the full 11.
So what is Nick bringing in here? It's hard to see. It's a little small for me. Can you tell? Looks like swords are coming out.
Swords coming out. Yeah, Tormod's Crypt's coming in. Looks like he's boarding in Porcelain Legionnaires. Taking out some Hangerback Walkers.
I guess
some
he's
of the
just
slower stuff.
He's substituting his threats, I think, for faster threats. Hangerback can be larger, but it takes some time to get going, whereas Porcelain Legionnaire can allow him to have something that's doing 3 a turn right off the jump, which, those life points matter for things like Necropotence and Yawgmoth's Bargain and Gitaxian Probes. And so I imagine that's what he's doing there, is just making his threats a lot quicker and faster.
Yeah, Hangerback Walker is nice with like Ravager against Mentors and Pyromancers, make a bunch of tokens, potentially trade off, but not really the matchup where you need a bunch of creatures. Just get the most power you can for the least mana as quickly as possible. Try to present a clock and hope that you're able to disrupt the deck enough to win. Now, Reed gets to be on the play. This hand's mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, it has some powerful cards, but not the cards you really want in your opening hand. I mean, Tendrils and Yawgmoth's Will aren't very productive with this hand right now. You don't have any rituals or any way to really do anything with the Yawgmoth's Will. Dark Petition, it needs the spell mastery and double black, so it's not happening to at least second turn, but on second turn, you're not generating any more mana, and you're just using your mana vault. So the hand is actually pretty slow. It needs some help. It needs a Dark Ritual or something of that effect. Maybe a Lion's Eye Diamond.
I think that this is a hand that he's mulliganing. Like, it doesn't have any real potential to do anything on turn 2, and that's a bad spot to be in. That being said, you could get a bunch of mana down before Nick can set up shop, so to speak, but yeah, that doesn't really do much. Dark Petition is not going to have spell mastery anytime soon. Tendrils is essentially a mulligan right now. Yawgmoth's Will is a good card to have in your hand, but not doing anything right now either. Now, you do set yourself up to cast Dark Petition turn 2 and cast whatever you want potentially turn 3. Potentially you can't cast Bargain because you'd have to tap Mana Vault. I don't know. I think I mulligan this if I'm Reed.
I think I do mulligan, but it is nice to be able to get out Mana Crypt and Mana Vault so that Thorns have less of an effect on you because you do have that extra mana floating around. That being said, you don't... Once Mana Vault is tapped, it doesn't really do as much. Wow, Nick is mulliganed. I did see that he had a turn 1 Chalice for 1, but it looked like he mulliganed that hand. So he's down to a hand here that can only play a Crypt and a Mox, doesn't have a land. Now he's on 4 cards.
Yeah, I thought his opening hand was Factory Wasteland, Mox, Ravager, Chalice. I don't know what the other 2 cards are. Just chat. Remember, that hand looked a little bit slow but good. I would have certainly kept it.
I agree. I liked his initial hand of 7. I didn't think it was great, but it was definitely, I think, playable. But then again, it's also me making that decision after seeing Reed's hand. And it's a lot different when you don't know what your opponent has and what you're afraid of and what you're thinking you need to be able to combat. So perhaps he was just worried about a really fast hand from Reed and wanted a sphere effect or something of the sort. But he did have Chalice in the opener, which is I think he could play it for 1 on turn 1, which is huge.
Yeah, he could play it for 1 on turn 1. Potentially slow Reed down dramatically, and then be able to play a threat and a wasteland on turn 2. And he had 2 draw phases to potentially improve that hand. I think that's a pretty easy keep. I don't think I would consider mulliganing that hand, despite it not being great. Certainly not even close to the nuts, but you're on the draw. You have a hand that can definitely interact in a pretty favorable way. You have one of your best cards in Chalice. I don't think that's a hand that you want to mulligan. It's certainly not a hand I want to mulligan. Reed's hand, on the other hand, it's just not very good. Like, he didn't play any of his mana on turn one, so if this had been exactly what had happened, then Nick would have got to lock out Mana Vault on turn one if he had capped, and man, Reed's hand would be really bad.
Yeah, I'm a little. I mean, I'm a little. I like to get. I don't necessarily like getting Mana Crypt out there because you're just taking 1.5 damage a turn. But I do like to sometimes get my Mana Vault out there while I can to prevent it from A, getting chalised, and B, costing more from a Thorn.
Yeah, it's possible that Reed's plan in this game is to play the mana artifacts and try to tendrils Yawgmoth's tendrils in the same turn to get enough mana and to basically mini tendrils into Yawgmoth's mini tendrils. But that being said, he's multiple rituals away, or at least one ritual away from doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's not normally a line you'd want to take against Storm because it's just so mana intensive. But when your opponent mulligans to 4 and doesn't lead with a lock piece, although you didn't know he wasn't going to lead with a lock piece and you didn't play your Mana Bolt. So I'm kind of, I don't know, understand that, but Reed knows what he's doing, so he obviously has his reasons. It would actually be interesting if during the matches sort of we could find out what the people were thinking, because there were definitely lines, when I was playing last week after watching the commentary, I saw some of the things like, say, you and Randy were saying, and I wish I could have explained at the time, but I'm too busy playing the match. So, who knows what the players are thinking when they make their decisions. It would be nice if we some kind of had an insight to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of our job to infer what they're probably thinking. I think that's the big part of it here.
Well, but you and Randy are
I'm gonna say I don't know.
Right, so you and Randy are great players, and kind of didn't know what I was thinking at times. We don't know why Reed didn't play the Mana Bolt. I'd like to know, but in the grand scheme of things,
I said exactly the reason why I think that Reed didn't play the Mana Vault, and I think it makes a lot of sense because his hand is so bad. That being said, his hand is so bad, that's why I would have mulliganed it. So,
yeah, that's I kind of want to, I wish we could interview them both. Why did you keep that hand? But I mean, after the match, even if it goes to more longer and they have other matches to play, that's the last thing they're thinking about. So, I would love to know why he kept and why Nick mulliganed.
So yeah, if Nick had kept that opening hand, it actually would have matched up great against Reed, because Reed is basically really looking for something like Dark Ritual, and so having that Chalice that he could have played for 1 on turn 1 would have been pretty fantastic.
So it looks like Reed's a little Dark Petition clogged.
Actually, it's actually even more obvious now that I actually look at Nick's hand and think about it. A reason to not play Mana Vault is that Nick's playing 4 Tangle Wires. You're likely to just get your Mana Vault locked in a tangle. Again, more reasons to mulligan the hand when you can't play your Mana Vault to then cast your Dark Petition when you might want to. But here we are.
So if he can get Spell Mastery and he's clogged on Dark Petitions, he can always Dark Petition for Dark Ritual, which sort of gets the mana back, but gets 2 cards in your graveyard and gets Storm at 2. But he's far away from Spell Mastery or even really casting these things without using his fast mana. He's really, I think, looking for a Dark Ritual here, but that Tangle Wire is going to, tangle these plans up.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty. I mean, Nick mulliganed to 4 in this game, and mulliganed a hand that I don't think he could have lost this particular game with, just because of the hand that Reed actually had. And it still looks like Nick's looking pretty good in this game. Yeah,
let's see. So he's going to have to, because of the Tangle Wire. If he didn't, oh wow, and that's huge. He can actually get his sack land to keep him off blue mana if he desires, because there's not really much in the deck that has red other than Empty the Warrens, and he doesn't have any. Does he have Wheel of Fortune? I know he had Windfall.
I think I can't remember. But that being said, it's Wheel of Fortune's mediocre, and I mean Reed does have a bunch of Sim and Spirit Guides, but
keeping them off blue
red
mana
is just not really useful.
Being able to get a sack land because of the Tangle Wire and getting their permanents down, so that next turn Tangle Wire for 2 is still effective, because at most, if he plays a land, he'll have 2 permanents. Pretty amazing that this game is playing out like this with Nick mulliganing a 4.
Yeah, that is the downside of keeping Reed's hand. He was at the mercy of the top of his deck without a lot of good draws that I can think of. If he drew Ritual, he couldn't do anything even on turn 2. If he drew Lotus, well, that's really good. If you drew Lotus, I think he just wins on turn 2 against an opponent who doesn't do anything turn 1. He would have 2, 5, 8, 7, 9 mana. Yawgmoth's Will, 6, 9. Yeah, I think he would have won the game if he drew exactly Black Lotus, but...
Reed had a discard, and he discarded a Dark Petition, which is interesting because it puts him halfway towards Spell Mastery.
Yeah, but he is not halfway to 5 mana yet. I mean, he could still get there. The clock is not particularly fast. Nothing's really happening. Like, taking 3 damage a turn is not a big deal. His hand is certainly improving every turn. Like, getting Spell Mastery on is great. He's got, 5 additional mana in his hand, which is very real. A Ritual plus a Mana Source is getting pretty close to where he needs to be.
Nick decided to eat 2 of his Moxes, which puts him... He was 1 mana away from resolving Triskaelion, and now he's going to, he's a long way away from it. But he did increase his clock from 3 damage to 5, so he can attack for 5 to 8, and then the following turn he can eat the Tangle Wire and a hit for 6. It's still going to take 3 turns. So,
yeah, depending on what he draws. I mean, he could just draw artifacts or a creature.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, Reed needs probably a Ritual and another black mana source.
Is the Tangle Wire... He's going to still be alive when the Tangle Wire goes away, right? Or no? Yeah, he should... It'll go down to 1, and Reed will go down to 8. It'll be at 0, and Reed will go to 2, maybe die. But
the only thing is, I think that Nick should have considered maybe keeping a 4th mana source, because if you draw a Lodestone Golem here, you really want to play it. And by going ahead and sacking both his Moxes, he's put himself at...
Drew Ritual.
He's put himself at 3 mana, which is if he draws Lodestone Golem here, he's going to be kicking himself that he can't play it by getting rid of both Moxes. And I don't think you gain an extra turn by getting both Moxes. And I think you could do the same with just 1 Mox. Wow.
Okay.
We both did a Puka trade wow when we saw the Trinisphere.
Yeah, it looked like Reed had this. That Reed was actually going to get the job done, and Trinisphere is game.
Yeah, I mean, he could tap the Pearl, untap, Mana Crypt, Ritual, Mana Vault, Dark Petition, Ritual, Yawgwill, and then have gone off.
Yep.
But unfortunately,
Reed won the game next turn. He needed 1 brick.
Yeah, Trinisphere is a really sick card, and even though it's restricted, I just don't like it. It makes me feel bad. I can't believe there was a day when the card was unrestricted. That actually used to be a thing.
Yeah, Magic's fun.
Reed now is just... I know how it feels when you think, okay, next turn, I got this. You've got it all worked out. Just please. No, oh, God, Trinisphere. Been there. So Randy points out in the chat, Reed was 1 turn away from winning both games. But usually when you're a Storm deck and you lose, you're usually 1 turn. It's rare that you weren't going to get them the next turn when you are playing.
I mean, to be fair, Reed had to draw a Dark Ritual that turn to have a hand that does anything, really. That being said, he did, and was going to win the game.
So he's going to be, let's see, he has 5. Actually, yeah, he can just attack and sacrifice everything, and he knows Reed's list. There's no instant he can cast with 1 black. So he can attack for 5 and sack all 3 of his artifacts. Yep. And this match is over. 2 very quick matches. It's going to send Nick to the finals. Reed gets to play another Shops matchup, and then whoever wins that matchup between him and David Ochoa has to beat Nick twice. 2 separate matches, so the play draw resets. But if Nick beats them the first match, it's over, and Nick will be joining all you seasoned vets in the VSL.
Yeah, he's definitely got the fast track to the slot at this point, although, I don't know, he mulled to 4 and won this game. Wow.
It's incredible. It's almost like he handicapped it. He just spotted Reed a hand because, a lot of people in the chat, LSV, myself, you, would have kept that opener. So,
oh yeah,
Shops is powerful.
To be fair, he would have won the game with the opening hand too.
Yeah,
but
a lot more handedly.
Yeah, Reed's hand just didn't do anything for a lot of turns, and That's a tough spot to be. Nick had some great top decks throughout that game, which whatever he was down to 4 cards in the entire game. He only drew like 9 cards total, so not too surprising. But the timely wasteland, and Reed found exactly the pieces he needed, and he did it without the aid of anything but the top of his deck. There was no blue mana even to cast anything, let alone some search spells or anything like that. So he found the cards he needed. He was a turn away, just needed to fade a lock piece, and they found the best lock piece, and that does it.
Well, I'm going to send you guys on a break. We're going to get Reed ready. Let's give him a couple seconds to kind of get composed and get ready to battle the Ocho. I bet the Ocho was expecting a little bit longer break, but here they go. We'll see you soon, guys.